Hello, my name is Rosemary Gorman Litke, and I'm here to share with you some of my 4-H experiences. I joined 4-H in 1949 when I was 10 years old, and I was so excited. I had two older sisters, and they'd been going to the fair for several years, but now I was going to get to go to the fair too. I made an apron, and I was so excited when I went to that 4-H building and I found my apron with a blue ribbon, and I got to show my calf, and it was just such an exciting time. That I was so excited because the barn where my calf was going to stay overnight had a padlock on the door, on the gate, and somebody was going to watch them all night to make sure that they were okay, and that made me feel very comfortable that I knew they was going to be taken care of. My third year, I went to the store with my daddy and bought material for a dress. I loved to sew, and I still like to sew. In 1956, I decided to enter the demonstration contest, and I made up a story about Alice in Dairyland and how nutritious milk is. And just think, if we didn't have milk, we wouldn't have ice cream or butter or cheese or all those good things that are made out of milk. I took that demonstration to the county and I placed first. Then I went to the district, which was held down in Dayton, Indiana, and I placed first again. And so I was on my way to the state fair to present my story about Alice in Dairyland. And I won. I was the state champion, and one of my rewards was a beautiful Elgin watch. And it was engraved on the back, and it had a green 4-H leaf inside of it. Loved it. 4-H just is so special. One of the special events and thing that I remember the most was I met my future husband at the Indiana State Fair. That is the best memory that I could ever have.
Hello, 4-Hers. I'm Jackie Radersdorf. I belonged to 4-H back in the old times. I was an 8-year member. I had hogs, baking, food preparation, and junior leaders. I really learned a lot. You've probably heard that phrase put forth, but now is the time to learn it. You have the example, you have leaders to help you to find the right way, and now's a good time to put that right way into use and make it a daily habit. But during this week, enjoy yourself. Make new friends, friendships that will retain throughout many years maybe. But have fun and retain what you've learned. It will help you in life, and I've drawn on my 4-H experiences lots of times, so they do come in handy. So have a good week.
All right.
The White County 4-H Fair is a tradition for the Kilmer family, and it's a long tradition as it goes back to my father, Parker, that was real involved in building some of the very first barns here on the site of here in Reynolds. And my 3 siblings all participated in 4-H along with myself. And probably the very first big memorable moment for me was the year that I was showing hogs at the fair, and the my Poland China Barrow ended up being grand champion Barrow, and that was the second year of 4-H, and I was on cloud 9 and was really excited about that. Another memorable moment has to be the year that young lady named Linda caught my attention and caught my eye, and eventually down the road we started dating, and one thing led to another, but we ended up with 3 children that participated there at White County Fair over the years, and particularly in the swine show, with a lot of memorable moments for them. We continue that on also with our grandchildren, that so far we've had 6 grandchildren participate in 4-H, not all of them at White County, but in 4-H, and with 3 more that undoubtedly will be part of the 4-H programs. I personally think 4-H is the greatest youth organization going, and I'll do everything in my power, my ability to help see that continues on here at White County and producing more memorable moments for White County youth.
Hi, I'm Karma Bushman from Wolcott. I was Karma Deemer from Wolcott when I joined 4-H. I am a 10-year 4-H member. I took a lot of different projects, beef, cattle, and swine, or beef, swine, and sheep from our farm, and had a lot of fun. Never won big, but that was all right. It was fun. My main focus was sewing, and I sewed not for the ribbons and not for the trophies, but to learn a skill that I really enjoyed. Marie Byers was my instructor. She was excellent. I didn't know we had the option to not be in Fashion Review. She didn't bother to tell me that, but I'm glad that I did that, because I truly believe that if you can stand in front of people and be judged in something you've made, you can do just nearly everything. I have been mentoring 4-H members in sewing for about the last 40 years off and on. I enjoy it. I enjoy teaching them something that they can do forever. I have also gotten into judging for 4-H, and I'm also sewing machine repair and maintenance. I believe that the best thing I learned about it was when people helped me watched me make my own mistakes and helped me find my way through it. As I've gotten older, I really have an appreciation for the time and energy that Marie Byers spent and my family spent in getting me back and forth to the workshops. I am just so grateful that 4-H gave me an opportunity to experience this, and it's something that I can share and teach others about.
Hi there, how are you this afternoon? I bet it's hot out there. I'm doing good. I am Joanne Kybers Wallace. I go by Jody sometimes. Depends on when you met me. If you met me in school, I was Joanne. If afterwards, it's Jody. So anyway, I enjoyed my 4-H years in White County. It was a good way to get acquainted with your neighbors and other kids your age, and just learn to be social and how to conduct a business meeting, and that was very important. And I held several offices and learned a lot and knew how to carry on a business meeting after that in other affairs I've been in. I loved the fair, especially the food. The pork boogers were delicious, and we would make a whole, that was a meal. And we'd have the coney dogs and ice cream sandwiches and the cotton candy. Oh, it was all delicious. And we'd meet our neighbors there and our friends and our relations. Sometimes that'd be the only time you'd meet some of your neighbors and that, because they were busy too, just like you were. And I mostly did baking and cooking around the house. Our family were farmers, and I pulled my share in the kitchen, washing dishes and cooking, and I turned out to be a pretty good cook. And I probably taught my mother some things too that she didn't know. But that busy day cake, man, I tell you, made that thing so many times. But Jackie Carson, a friend of mine in our club, and I did a demonstration, and it was on the busy day cake and how to make the cake. And I measured right, and she just slopped it together. Well, we thought it was really funny, but the judge did not think it was funny at all. And useless to say, we didn't place at all. But that was funny. We had a great time doing it and really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed my years and meeting so many people. So thank you for listening.
So I'm Larry Klink. I started at 4-H back in 1951. The fair was relatively new at the time, and I was new. I didn't really know what the fair was. I was 10 years old. I was the oldest child of my parents, and so I had never been to a fair. And we started out with one building for all the animals, which was the sheep building today. And the women's building was half the size it is today. And look how the fair has grown. We got so many more projects. So we showed in a tent at that time. And as years went on, we just gradually kept getting more buildings and more and show barn and different things like that. And the fair grew and grew and grew. And we had 2 commercial tents. We had them both full. But that was in the day when we had a big carnival. And the carnival does help a fair. But they can't help it. It's not the fair board's fault that they can't get a carnival because they're just not there anymore. And the fairs are overlapped so much that the good carnivals take the place where the most people are. So that's why we don't have one. But still a good fair. I'm not complaining about that. And I was on the fair board for several years and didn't think that fair could possibly run without me, but by golly, it still is going. Isn't that something? And so I wasn't indispensable. We know that. But I loved every minute of the fair. I couldn't, when I was too old to be in it anymore, I still had to be at that fair every day. Then when I was put on the fair board, I did that for several years. I can't remember how many years I was on the fair board. Lots. And so it just was a very enjoyable experience. And the fair is a wonderful fair here. And 75 years, I can't believe that we're to that point. But time rolls on too fast.
The Wright family of Burnettsville has a rich history with the White County 4-H Fair. 3 generations held leadership positions for the fair, from my grandparents, Russell and Ruth, to my parents, Harold and Opal, and to my brother, Howie, and his wife, Cheryl. Thinking back to my 4-H days in White County, how can a Rife not say the Dairy Project? From 1964 through 1980, Howie, Gary, myself, and Teresa, all 10-year members, kept keen competition alive among each other and other Dairy Project members. That competition was in the show ring, especially those coveted showmanship classes, and also in the barn for serious games of euchre that might delay a few barn chores. In Howie's last year of 4-H, the 4 Rife siblings took 16 head of cattle to the fair. With 6 cows to milk in the morning and the evening, we didn't dare pour those milkings down the drain, so Howie made 2 trips every day and evening to take the milk from those cows back to the bulk tank at the farm. That left Gary, Teresa, and I to handle the other chores. No time to have any disagreements, just get those chores done. Oh, the happy sibling teamwork. Those barn chores also translated into the Dairy Herdsman Award, something dairy members would strive for. One year, I had a broken leg, and because of a full leg cast, I was limited in what I could do to help my siblings with chores. Howie worked exceptionally hard to win this award, and even though he did most of the work that year, I received the award because I was always with our cattle when the judges went by. On behalf of the Rife family, congratulations, White County 4-H Fair, for providing 4-H members a wonderful showcase for their project accomplishment for 75 years.
My fondest memory of the White County 4-H Fair was my last year in 1965. My brother and I won the Reserve Champion Barrel and the Grand Champion Barrel in our breed, which was Hampshire. And we also won the Grand Champion Barrel over all the breeds and the Reserve Champion Barrel over all the breeds. And I won the Champion Gilt Award for our breed, the Hampshire. And a friend asked me later, how did you do that? How did that happen? And I remembered that my dad took me to a sale and we bought a pig. And that pig that we bought was the beginning of our breeding process. And it was our dad's breeding prowess that helped us to achieve the accomplishment at the fair that year.
White County 4-H programs helped me learn and make a lot of new friends with 4-Hers and families all over White County and Indiana, in fact. I remember the first time in a show ring with my pig, following him and stepping every place that he did. I think he showed me instead of me showing him. I don't even know if I knew where the judge was that day. Fred Hintzman in the electric projects was a great electric leader. He was very intense about having our projects done neat and tidy, and as a result, 4-Hers from White County always did well at the Indiana State Fair with blue ribbons and champions. Junior Leaders was a fun project for me, doing things that I hadn't done before. You know what? I think we spent more time at Indiana Beach than we did having other meetings, but I liked it, and it was lots of fun meeting a lot of new 4-Hers around the county. I actually found my niche in a 4-H tractor project. Dad was one of our leaders, and so I had to work really hard, and fortunately I did win a 4-H achievement trip to the East Coast and Washington, D.C., and also represented Indiana in the National Eastern Regional Competition in Richmond, Virginia, where we did well there. I'd say probably overall White County 4-H Fair has always been a really inspirational event to attend, and seeing all the great volunteerism and leadership of other families and parents and 4-Hers that they can pass on to their future generations in 4-H. So 4-H was great. I appreciate having the opportunity to be in it. And if anybody happens to be going to Washington, D.C., I've got the room 201 key for the 4-H Center in D.C.
I became a member of White County 4-H in 1950. I was the first in my family of 5 to become a member, and we started with the beef. And my dad, we didn't know anything about the project. The show barn was in the middle of the beef barn. We shared it with the dairy, I believe. And I did okay, but I didn't do great. But then my brother, who is just a year younger than I, won his first 2 years of the beef show as grand champion. That made my dad get the bug. So from then on, we were a beef family. I belong to the Country Cousins, Round Country Cousins, and the main reason for all our success is the great leaders we had. We began with Esther Harmon and Harold Byers. My brother Tom Sheets became a leader, and Bob Harmon, and finishing off was Kathy Schultz and Tom Byers. They were great. Sadly, our club, Country Cousins, no longer exist. I took baking and sewing, just 1 year for sewing. My mother couldn't take another year. And I was in the first Queen contest in 1960. I didn't place, but my dad, Dale T. Sheets, was the first MC, and then my husband, Rod Nesius, was the second MC. Also, my dad, Dale T. Sheets, was known as the voice of the beef barn, and my husband, Rod Nesius, was known as the voice of the hog barn. People liked them because they knew a lot of White County history, and in the breaks between classes, they would tell a lot about the different townships in the White County. My 3 children also belonged in 4-H. We're all 10-year members. Rod and I, whom I met at the fair when I was 14, married, 3 children. We never had grand champion, but our 3 children did get grand champion, so we figured that that was worth all our efforts.
Go. My name is Connie Culp Shannon, and we have been at the White County Fair every year practically since 1955. My oldest brother had the grand champion steer in 1956, my younger brother in 1958, I in 1960, and my sister in 1964. I have 4 children who have had a grand champion in reserve at the White County Fair, and my 4 children all had 10 years of 4-H. I have 9 grandchildren, and they've all had 10 years of 4-H. Great-grandchildren. No, grandchildren. Geez, I'm getting mixed up. There's other things that at one point, the beef barn, the east half was dairy, the west half was beef. And then the beef project got so big, they put a tent out where the pig barn is now. And we came to the fair that one day. It was on show day, and it had rained, and show boxes and stuff were swimming. Then there was another thing that I was very proud of. When I was in 4-H, at the auction one year, they auctioned your animal off, and then the person who bought it could auction it again, and that's how they got the money to raise the arena. My husband was also president of the fair board for at least 8 years. Then there was, when they built the rabbit barn and put those restrooms in, my girls and I and Juanita Roderick Wessner painted the inside, and it was oil-based paint. And we came out of there like we were high. And there were lots of things I could talk about, but those are some of the highlights of my 4-H career at White County.
I'm Tom Byers. I joined 4-H. First year was 1961. My 10th year was 1970. Yes, that makes me an old person. Tom Harmon, Bob Sheets, and Joanne Sandblum were our 4-H leaders at Round Grove Country Cousins. Joanne retired or stepped down, and that's when Kathy Schultz took over, and a few years later Bob Sheets and Tom Harmon retired, and I took their place. I was involved with pigs 10 years, beef 8 years, photography, tractor driving. So yeah, one of the memorable things of 4-H after I was a leader, Jerry Wyan of Monticello and I co-chaired the concession pop stand at the Farm Progress show that was held at the Fouch Farm. I do not remember the year of that, but then we co-chaired it, and I think it was pretty successful. So Jerry and I had a good time. And other things, 4-H has changed quite a bit over the years, because when we were in 4-H, 4-H was the main activity for summer for school kids. There wasn't the baseball leagues, basketball leagues, girl leagues, so it's changed quite a bit. So, okay.
I'm Karen Klink Marshall, and I grew up outside of Wolcott back in the late 50s, early 60s. And in those days, 4-H was kind of your social life, and 4-H led to the fair, and I kind of lived for that all summer long. When I was a little kid, the fair meant the midway. It meant going in and getting pencils and rulers in the industry tents. It was just having a good time. Once I really got into 4-H, it took on different meaning. And I did girls 4-H, but it was my steer that made all the difference at the fair. It was where my social life was. I always, or almost always, had a crush going at the fair. Some years they only lasted as long as the fair lasted. One year I won the Clean Pen Award with little effort, and that's because the boy who had steers on each side of my steer had crushes on me that summer, and they fought to keep my pen clean. I won, they didn't. And I didn't go to win the best ribbon ever. I went because it was fun. And hanging around the cattle barn was fun. Going down, figuring out which of the church stands we'd have lunch at, just sitting in our fare boxes and talking, playing cards, whatever. And one year, I entered the Queen contest, not because I thought I had any chance of winning, but because I thought it'd be fun, and it was. And years later, I was invited back to judge the Fair Queen contest. That was more fun because there was no pressure. I one year won the Record Book Award, and so you need to understand one thing, that my brother had to do all the hard work on the steers, and I could only take them as long as he was around because I was allergic to the animals' feed, I was allergic to the animals' bedding. So when it was time to do the record book, I copied some of his, and I won the Record Book Award and he didn't. And he always claimed it was because my handwriting was better. I claimed it was because I was honest. And I said the reason I took beef and 4-H was because it meant I got to be at the fair from morning to night.
56 years ago, I was crowned Miss White County, something I still hold as very special. Something unique about that particular Queen contest was I was crowned on Tuesday night instead of Thursday night. It used to be that the Queen contest was on Thursday evenings and the Queen reigned over the fair one day. So therefore, when I was crowned on Tuesday night, I had a very full week participating in all the shows and the events that took place. I enjoyed the fair. Probably some of my fondest memories are little girls coming up and wanting to see the Queen. And to this day, I find it special that people will still mention maybe that I was a White County Queen. And it's with a lot of pride that feeling that rushes over me. And I want to thank the Fair Board and all those that have continued to make the fair, the White County Fair, a very special event. And happy anniversary, 75 years, that's wonderful.